Jessica Hirons, Lewis Chaffee and Richard Zorley. Our group is centring our projects on the GIS mapping and biodiversity of Merle and Eelgrass beds. With limited past research and improved technology, we believe that our projects will provide an insight into many important aspects, including research that may affect the Porter Family's master plan and explain the science behind the proposed dredging. I will pass you on to Richard, who will give an overview of his proposed research.
Good afternoon. My proposed project is to build a geographical information system around the existing Merle beds, which are already mapped in the area of St Maurs, and to hopefully find some new beds, maybe live or dead, whatever I can find out there, hopefully some live beds. The method will be by side-scan sonar, submersible video recorders, and possibly scuba diving as well for ground truthing. In that way I hope to measure the proportion of live and dead Merle, and as I previously mentioned, hopefully find some new beds and get those on the GIS system as well.
Hi there. I'd also like, once Richard's established the distribution of the live and the dead Merle, I'd like to compare the biodiversity between the live and the dead Merle. Basically, to establish if the dead Merle is of equal importance to local fishing industries for some of the juvenile species. I'd like to use grab samples to do this, and possibly a Niskin bottle to go down and look at the planktonic species. And then I'd also like to ground proof my research by diving. We've all got significant amounts of experience in that. Also, once I've gathered my detail and I've done statistical analysis, I thought it would be nice to put together a guidebook so that the public can actually see what species live within the Merle beds as an interpretation resource.
My proposed research is to map the current location of Merle beds in the Fowl Estuary and to examine the conditions, particularly the substrates, which they need to survive and grow. This will be useful for the possible translocation of the Merle beds in conjunction with the Porter Family's master plan. I'll also look at the possible sites proposed by the Harbour Commissions to examine if they would be suitable for translocation. I will be primarily using a grab sampler to sample the substrates. I also intend to collaborate GIS data from previous and current Falmouth Marine students.
I'm going to be planning to map the location and biodiversity of eelgrass beds in the Fowl Estuary. They're very important as they provide nursery grounds and breeding grounds for what's estimated at 80% of commercial fish and shellfish species. They prevent coastal erosion by providing a buffer between the tides and the coast, and this is why they're very important to protect and conserve. I'm planning to do a series of trips to known locations of eelgrass, as well as, well, the second year is last year, they mapped out some new locations, so I'll be doing them as well. And once there, I'm going to use underwater cameras and scuba monitoring equipment to look at the biodiversity and perform surveys, quadrat surveys and transect surveys. I'm going to dive and snorkel as well to locate or to get a closer view of and pictures of any new species that I might find, or just species that are there in general. All of this data will then be collated into a GIS map, and hopefully this will provide key information for the Porter Harbour master plan, and with the dredging ideas that are being put forward as well.
Thank you very much for listening to the process. Any comments, questions?
I'd certainly like to commend you on the how topical this research is going to be. I think these are very much very important issues, and there is, while a certain amount of data is known, there is still a lot, and particularly in terms of sort of the extent of some of these habitats that we don't know. So I think it could be an extremely relevant project. My concern, I think, would be over mapping using sonar. I mean, in terms of trying to get a different signature between live and dead Merle, how do you think you can analyse that?
Initially, we'd be looking for prospective spots and then dropping the video camera down to confirm that. and with the possibility of scuba diving on them as well.
Right, so you've got a ground truth, and then presumably we're going to sort of cross-reference that with your sonar images to see if you were actually able to detect differences.
Yeah, as we progress, hopefully we'll be able to interpret the sonar better and speed up the whole process.
Okay, thank you.
There is research showing that Skytime sonar is quite accurate at predicting live and dead melt as long as it's suitably ground truth in the first place. And one of the secondaries found that out in her project. So.
Coordinator, see how that turns out.
What's the difference between live, apart from the obvious, between live merle and dead merle? My understanding was that merle was calcified too, so it was dead.
Calcified algae, red calcified.
Right. Oh, so the live is the algae.
It grows as
so live and dead merle is wrong probably. It's an algae that's alive and then it becomes
it grows as a calcareous organism. The calcium is part of its makeup.
Right.
It grows on the superstructure of the dead male as well, so new live male can grow on it, but also the dead male could act as a habitat in itself, so that's why that is possibly important.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
Have you got craft? Where are you going to get boats from?
I think in some of our proposed bids, we'd hopefully be able to borrow the one from the Harbour Commission, if that's possible.
And the same with the grab sample, we talked to Harriet about possibly borrowing from universities over the summer.
And we've also looked at prices if we can't manage to borrow, we can't borrow from the university's grab samples. And we've looked at this like possibly about £800 for an 18-foot long grab sampler, which would be our primary use of sampling.
How many hours on the water do you think you're going to do?
We're looking at doing a whole week over the summer, and obviously intervals during the academic year, and possibly also mirroring our summer survey into a winter one as well, just to get a... And also going back to the boat question, I'm qualified to drive a small rib, so if it was something small we could just possibly borrow the colleges. My name is Jessica Hirons. For my second year project, I'd like to carry out a study on male beds in the Fowl estuary to compare differences in biodiversity between live and dead male. And basically we just did the bid. I think it went okay. I was a bit nervous, but we answered all the questions.
My name is Stephanie Burns. For my second year project, I proposed to map the current location of male beds in the Fowl estuary and to examine the conditions, particularly the substrate which they need to grow and survive. I also intend to collaborate GIS data from previous and current years of Falmouth Marine School students. Blood test, just had my bid, and I think it went okay. I was shaking, I did say Lewis's name wrong, but apart from that...
Sorry to chat to my friends. My project is to map the location and biodiversity of eelgrass beds in the Fowl estuary. I just did my bid and I rushed everything and got really scared because those guys
My name is Richard Warning. I'm also going to be mapping merle in the Fowl. Going to start with the known beds, map the extent of them, and work out the percentage of live and dead merle on the beds, which will all then be built up into a GIS information system. The bid went fairly well, I think. I could possibly have used a little bit more of my time, got a bit more detail out there. Other than that, I think everything went quite well.
Wonderful. Good done.